My name is Drew Posada. I am from Skiatook, Oklahoma. I am married to my wife Amanda. We've been married for almost 9 years now. I'm a youth pastor at First Baptist Church of Skiatook, and we've been here in Skiatook for about 4 years. I'm originally from Choctaw, Oklahoma, and I'm excited to be doing this interview today. So, being a youth pastor is really integrated into who I am, and it's a huge part of my life because being in ministry, being a pastor, is not a 9-to-5 job. It's often a 24/7 job. You might get phone calls in the middle of the night, or family emergencies, or just a student wanting to talk about life or having issues. And so I see my job as a very big part of not just
Let me read a few scriptures
what I do, but
you
part
that
of who
this
I
will be
am,
based
just
off
because
of.
I believe I'm
Psalm
called
100, verse
to love
3
people
says,
and to share
"Acknowledge that the
Jesus
Lord
with
is
them.
God. He made
and
us, and we are His."
Along with that, I would say that my faith, has been a huge part of my life. When I was 16 years old, I gave my life to Jesus, and since that day, I have not been the same. I rely on Him. I depend on Him day by day for everything. He's someone I can talk to when things are difficult. I believe He's the God who created me, and so therefore He knows what's best for me. I know that He unconditionally loves me, and I think that's something that would be lacking in my life if I didn't know Jesus, and I believe it's something that's missing in our world today as well. I think that many people feel alone. They feel like they don't have anyone, or they don't have purpose, or that no one loves them. And my hope in being a pastor is showing people just how much Jesus Christ loves them. He died for them, for their sin, and He wants a real, lasting, genuine relationship with them. So back in March of this year, I woke up one day and I had what felt like a crick in my neck. And you sleep on your neck funny. Sometimes you just think that, it's going to go away after a day or two. And so, I took pain medicine. I put some, ice and heat on it, and just assuming that it was going to get better. Well, it did not get better, it only got worse. And so I thought maybe I had injured my neck or done something to it. And so I went and saw chiropractors. I went and got massages. I did different kinds of therapies to try to help relieve the tension in my neck and upper back. And nothing seemed to help. And so into April and the beginning of May, it started to affect, my work, my ability to do my job, my ability to be a good husband. One day, when I was leading the music at my church, I felt my head to begin to pull to one side, and once again, just really strange things were happening. I didn't know why my neck was pulling as much, but I just assumed it was I had injured myself in some kind of way, and so it was more a physical trauma or something like that. Well, not long after that, I had to end up staying at home. I couldn't get out. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do different things because I had severe nerve pain that would shoot up and down my body for no reason. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody that had Parkinson's disease, but my head began to shake uncontrollably back and forth. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my head pulling to one side or twitching. Lost the ability to read, lost the ability to write. And eventually the pain and this discomfort was so bad that I ended up in the hospital at the end of May. And it was when I was in the hospital that I also lost the ability to walk on my own. And so, all these things are happening. They happen pretty quickly. From what felt like a physical injury, now became really serious. And so doctors began to throw things around like you have a brain cancer, or you have things like what they called cervical dystonia, which is like a permanent thing that you're going to have for the rest of your life. And so I was preparing, my wife was preparing for the worst. We're trying to just be ready for that. And so after a few days of staying in the hospital, the doctors and a few family friends suggested that we go to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And because I had not gotten a clear diagnosis yet. I had heard several different things from several different doctors. Nobody could nail down what was giving me all this trouble. And so I checked out of the hospital here in Tulsa. I got in the back of my mom and stepdad's car, and we drove 10, 11 hours all the way through to the Mayo Clinic. And so many things happened there that were unexplainable, but one of those things is typically the average wait time to get into the emergency room at the Mayo Clinic is anywhere between sometimes people wait 5-6 hours, sometimes people wait 12 hours, and we got in 15 minutes. A family friend actually worked at the Mayo Clinic at the time, and he had prepared the way for us. And so when I got there, they had a wheelchair waiting. I got in a wheelchair, got wheeled in, and within just a few hours of being there, I had a diagnosis from a doctor that I had what's called functional neurological disorder. And so basically what functional neurological disorder is it's where your brain is not connecting or communicating properly with the rest of your body. They described it like with computers. They said, diseases or things like Parkinson's are more hardware issues that are just going to cause the whole thing to go bad and be with you for the rest of your life. But functional neurological disorder is more of like a software issue. It's like a virus in the software of your brain. It can be reprogrammed. You can recover from it. It just takes a lot of time to retrain your brain and to be able to go through lots of different therapies and treatments to be able to get better. And so, this was the first time in a couple of months that we had heard some kind of hopeful news and got a diagnosis. And so immediately you began to have hope again. The very next day after getting my diagnosis, it was recommended to us that we stay at the Mayo Clinic and try to begin to get appointments so that I could see different doctors and hopefully eventually get into what they call the BEST program at Mayo Clinic, which is the behavioral shaping therapy. That's what they call it there, and it helps people who have what I have to be able to recover and be able to function in daily life. But in order to do that, you have to get 2 or 3 different appointments with people who are going to evaluate your state. They're going to evaluate your condition, and then they're going to make a decision and decide if you are fit for the program or not. And so most people have to wait 2 to 3 months to get those appointments. That's just for one. 2 to 3 months you have to wait to get one of those appointments, and I got 3 or 4 of those in 1 week. And so there were times where the employees there at the Mayo Clinic, they were telling us we needed to go buy a lottery ticket because this does not happen. It doesn't happen once, much less 3 or 4 different times. And so, I refer back to my faith. I believe that God was paving a way and making a way for us to get treatment even through this difficult situation. During this unprecedented time that we're going through with all the pandemic craziness going on, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to have anxiety and uncertainty and fear start to creep up in our hearts and in our minds. The goal of this song is to remind us that we don't belong to fear, we don't belong to anxiety, we don't belong to sinfulness. We belong, if we are in Christ, we belong to God our Father. So, fast forward, after coming home from the Mayo the first time, I went back in August, which was just a few months later, to do the best program, the behavioral shaping therapy program. I graduated early because they had said even between my first trip to the Mayo and my second trip to the Mayo that I had made tremendous progress. They said it's very rare to see a patient make that kind of progress. They don't see that very often, and so I graduated early. They gave me different physical therapies and behavioral therapies, occupational therapies to practice at home. I began to kind of learn to read, learn reading and comprehension again, learning to write again, those kinds of things that I had lost the ability to do over time with what I have. And right now, I would say I'm back to about 80-90% doing what I was doing before. And so I feel very lucky. I feel very blessed, very fortunate to be where I am now in such a short period of time. Throughout this whole process, I've just been reminded time and time again that even though difficult things happen in our world and happen in our lives, I believe that we can still trust God, and God has a purpose and a reason for everything. For example, this has not only strengthened my trust in Him and dependence on Him, but it's also given me a story to tell. I've been able to relate to other people who are walking through difficult health seasons, and I can't even tell you in just a short period of time how many times I've been able to love on people and encourage people who are walking through health situations not exactly like mine, but health difficulties nonetheless, and that's given me the ability to relate to them. So functional neurological disorder is not a well-studied condition. I knew nothing about it before hearing about it at the Mayo Clinic. So if I could say anything to anyone about functional neurological disorder, it comes in many different forms. And many people who are struggling with it still don't have relief or still don't have hope. I consider myself very fortunate because I've only had it for 6 months and I'm on my way to recovery. But things I've read, I've seen people who have had it for years and have seizures, or are still unable to walk, drive, or work, and their lives are very difficult because of it. So I hope and pray that more research is done into this health condition, so that more healthcare is available to those who have it, to give them hope, to give them recovery, and to give them a happy life.